Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekend Big Show, powered by Law Dog Sports. I am Chuck Ramsey, the Law Dog, here with you on a blustery Friday morning here in my neck of the woods. Hopefully you're having decent weather where you're at. I know it varies across the continent, and I will go ahead and preemptively apologize for the barren landscape in the background. As the Ramsey Broadcasting Studios will be in transit the next month, and we are moving. So got boxes and got pictures down and patching up holes in the wall, things like that. But so glad to be here with you on a Friday morning for the Weekend Big Show. We're streaming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter X. Be sure and give us a follow, and please subscribe to our YouTube page at Law Dog Sports. And we have two sections on that page on YouTube for our podcast. One is the Weekend Big Show, and the other is Western Oklahoma Sports Night. So it was a big night in Western Oklahoma sports last night for the Sweet 16. We'll break down the four matchups that were on last night, kind of look into the four matchups that are tonight. A big night for a local kid to me, and a kid that I have been involved with his career since he was a freshman in high school. So we'll talk about that as we go along, and then also we'll kind of preview tonight's game, some big ones on the marquee, and then also spring football has started this week, and OU and OSU underway for their spring practices and getting ready for spring games and things like this. So if you're not noticing as of yet, I am not welcoming in my partner, Jeremy Schroeder, the ruler of the airways, as he is not available today. And we had anticipated my play-by-play interfering with this morning's program, because I was going to probably be on my way to Eagle Field to call the I-40 Baseball Classic today for Weatherford Eagles and several other squads. But that has been kind of altered. The schedule is changed, so I won't be tied up much this morning, and it'll be later this afternoon. But anyways, so Jeremy not with us today, and if he tunes in and wants to jump in, that's great. I'll see. He had some things going on, so we'll see what he has going on next week. But we want to hear from you. Be sure and comment on the stream that you are watching. Give us your assessment of last night's Sweet 16 games. We'll get into that here in just a minute. As I mentioned, spring football going on. Opening day yesterday for Major League Baseball, as well as just a whole lot of news in sports. And, I will try not to give the douchebags of sports too much play today, but man, there are plenty abounding. And I'm going to say this, one douchebag that just commented, no, he's a great fan, Connor Carr, says, my office is looking sad now. That's kind of true, Connor, but we'll have a new setup in late April and have everything rolling, and hopefully maybe even make myself look a little better, which is a tall task. But so anyways, like I said, we're going to try not to give the douchebags too much time, but man, today it is just rife with calling out the douchebaggery. One is in college basketball and one is in the NFL. And I think you may know who I'm talking about if you've been paying attention to the headlines on social media. But just some amazingly lame and stupid stuff that I've seen. And it'll beg the question as we get going. When did it become cool to give yourself your own nickname? I mean, the nicknames used to always be bestowed by people who you bested or people who saw you and were in admiration of you. Nicknames are not something that you come up with. Now, I've given some kids some nicknames along the way with regards to my play calling, and it's generally based on how I see them play, how I see them react during plays. But anyways, and Connor Carr going ahead and breaking the egg, and we appreciate him commenting on Facebook Live. Will Wade is a trash human being, and that is exactly one of the people. Connor knew where I was going with that. Will Wade announced as the head basketball coach at Louisiana State University. And I just want to remind everybody, and we'll dig into this later, when you go get that mid chicken and that that weird sauce at Raising Cane's, you're helping the Bayou Bengals each time you do, because they have a major booster who is the owner CEO of Raising Cane's. So next time you want some mid chicken and just some weird tangy sauce to dip it in, go ahead and go to Raising Cane's and support LSU sports and all of the buyouts and the multi hundreds of millions of dollars that they're having to pay coaches. But Will Wade does make the move from North Carolina State to LSU, where he had been before. And just it's a funny search if you look up the history of Will Wade and how he's done so much in so little time to just make himself a true dirtbag. I mean, you're picked up on an FBI wiretap and you're still allowed to be involved with impressionable young men. It's stunning. Now, the people who support him, or people who are maybe more literal, will look at it and say, okay, well, he was only doing then what they're allowing them to do now. And that's true. And, we can talk about the lack of blue bloods who are in this Sweet 16, or who are going to be, who are not in this Sweet 16. But, I mean, I think Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, and even Kim Mulkey, you're bringing in a really special amount of just cringy coaching ethics, just a total debacle of the morality scale down in Baton Rouge. And Connor saying Bruce Pearl will be his mentor. Yeah, that's another one. And now we get to hear Bruce Pearl on the regular on pregame and postgame and halftime. And I'm hoping CBS realizes the error of their ways somehow, because he truly is awful. Now, I'm just going to say the Jamal Mashburn, Jalen Rose setting that they do, I don't know what they're doing on the break, but it really doesn't have a lot of energy to me. And to me, it's just not all that super swell. But then also we'll talk about Caleb Williams and his intention to try to trademark the slogan Iceman, because he's made some nice passes in playoff games that didn't result in them winning, but in cold settings in Chicago. And then also you've got people in Chicago defending that and also claiming a different Iceman. And so it's a lot of stuff, but I'll just say this. There's one, when you say Iceman, there's one name that comes to my mind, and that's George Gervin, former San Antonio Spur. And that will always be the case. No trademark can ever change that. So anyway, so if you've got a comment and you want to check in with us here on the live stream, we would love to hear from you. Let us know your take on any of the goings on. And tough day for the Rangers yesterday, as Nathan Eovaldi took the loss against Philly, and then also Houston lost on their opening day to the Anaheim, California, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I don't even pay attention anymore. But they will be back at it today. The Rangers are off, and they'll be picking it up tomorrow. But yeah, the Astros lose 3-0. I think Mike Trout, if I saw correctly, had a pretty nice day in that one. And he had a homer in that one in the seventh inning. So a big day for the Angels, and opening day, always romantic about baseball. And sorry to steal a phrase from Moneyball, but how can you not be romantic about baseball when it gets started? I saw yesterday Turner Classic Movies shared the clip of James Earl Jones and his speech about baseball from Field of Dreams, and you just feel the hackles, the hairs on the back of your neck start to arise. And then also not so fun on the baseball tick was the 14-0 run rule that the OU Sooners got yesterday in Austin, Texas. And the Texas Longhorns seem to be setting themselves up to be in real contention for a potential women's basketball championship. I don't know that they're better than Connecticut, but also baseball and softball, they will definitely be in the running. So 3 spring sports. Well, basketball is a winter sport, but 2 spring sports and going into March with their spring basketball and the women's side. And then the men played a heck of a game yesterday against Purdue, and probably a little bit of a questionable call at the end of that on the winning putback. But so anyways, let's go ahead and get into our Sweet 16 coverage. We want to thank our sponsor here on the program, and today's sponsor is A Plus Roofing and Construction. Rain or shine, they'll be there, locally owned and operated by my friend Damon Schultz. They serve Western Oklahoma, and he also serves the OKC Metro. And you can give him a call at 580-772-7587. That's 580-772-7587. And what I love about Damon Schultz is he's not just going to tell you, yes, I mean, he's come out and looked at my roof after a minor hailstorm, and I'm kind of the worrying type. So I take a look at it. I was like, okay, I can't really tell if anything's going on. He comes out, takes a look at it, and says, I think you're good. I truly think you're good. And, honestly, there's a lot of roofing companies that could look at it, and really, he was totally right. There was no damage at all. But then I think about some of the roofing companies that I dealt with when I lived in Norman, and I can't guarantee you that they would have said, "Oh yeah, I think you need a new roof." So A Plus Roofing and Construction. The number's up there on the scroll and on the picture there on this live stream. So Sweet 16 last night. The first two games were definitely a lot more exciting than the final two games. And sorry to our Arkansas contingency. But man, the Arizona Wildcats just came out on a heater, shot 60% from the field, over 60%, and over 60% from the 3-point line. And then just, 39 free throws, and just an amazing output by them. And everybody was talking about Coach John Calipari, and giving up 54 first half points to the Wildcats. Well, yeah, that's bad, but I mean, Arkansas had 43 at the half. I mean, it's not like they were inept offensively. They did shoot 22% from the 3-point line, and that's going to hurt you in any affair. And just a big night from Darius Acuff Jr., but he was 1 of 5 from the 3-point line, 28 points, and he made some moves. And I'll tell you what, I like the comparisons that he is receiving with regards to his game, and probably being a lottery pick, definitely being a lottery pick at the next level. But just too much. Wildcats and Arizona looked every bit the part of a number 1 seed last night in the 109-88 blowout over the Arkansas Razorbacks. And then the other game, the two nightcap games, Houston just came out flat, just didn't look like they could out physical Illinois, which I know has been kind of their, stake to claim of fame. And then, a Kelvin Sampson team getting out rebounded is not going to be really something that you see that often. 65-55, the Illini, who are coached by somebody who I despise, Brad Underwood, and I think anybody who has followed the Oklahoma State University basketball program over the past 25 years would come to that conclusion also. He's just I don't think he's a good person. I don't know if he's Will Wade terrible, but he's really bad, and left OSU in a bad predicament after one season. But he did get the win last night, and David Mirkovich, 14 and 10, Keaton Wagler 13 and 12. So you get 2 players with double doubles. It's going to be a pretty decent night for a lot of teams. And then it's their second Elite 8 in 3 seasons. And that's what sucks about Brad Underwood, is the fact that he's getting it done. I mean, that's really kind of rare air, even for a what I call a fairly traditional program like the Illini. Former OK Oklahoma head coach, or I don't know if he coached in OK Oklahoma, but he's from there. But Lou Henson was at Illinois back in the 80s, and he had been at New Mexico State prior to that, and then finished his career at New Mexico State as well before he retired. But nothing against Illinois. That I think they're a fine program. I think they do athletics, really respectfully from what I can tell. Brett Bielema at football, Brad Underwood at basketball. I mean, I could take or leave Bielema. I don't have anything against him, but Underwood just not my favorite human being. But it's just you look at the numbers in this one. Houston was 2 of 2 from the free throw line. And when you're a team like Houston, you're shooting 2 free throws on the night, you're not being aggressive enough. And that's just, I know a lot of social media will jump on and say, claim officiating and discrepancy, but a lot of times. And now I watched that game and it looked like they were beating the tar out of each other at times. And I really thought kind of Houston was getting the benefit of the doubt on some calls, but then that proved not to be so. And but just shooting wise, you look at it, 22 made field goals for each squad, 9 made threes for each squad as well, except you had Houston shooting 64. They were 22 of 64, while Illinois was 22 of 51 from the field, and then 9 of 23 for the Illini and 9 of 32. So those percentages can really wreak havoc on you when you're looking at a trying to defeat a quality team. And man, I'm telling you, when you look at this Sweet 16, the Big Ten is so well represented. Now, they're gonna hope that that Michigan State and Michigan can get past some pretty talented teams tonight. But if Nebraska and Iowa don't have to play each other last night, they could have had at least a couple more teams potentially in the Elite Eight. So big season for the Big Ten. But Kelvin Sampson, I feel bad for him. He's just one of those guys that he's had such quality programs. Now the champion from last year and the runner-up from last year are both out of the tournament. Florida fell to Iowa earlier this week or on Sunday, and then the runner-up last season, the Houston Cougars, fall last night to Illinois 65-55. So that's going to set up a big match between Iowa and Illinois, another Big Ten on Big Ten matchup. And so Iowa, facing some familiar foes, but man, they get a big 77-71 win over Nebraska last night. And I'm just going to go ahead and do my victory lap now as Weatherford, Oklahoma product, which thank God the announcers really made emphasis to proclaim that. But Weatherford, Oklahoma, represented by Tate Sage, the 6'7" swingman for the Hawkeyes, former state champion at Weatherford, Oklahoma, and just a tremendous player. His twin brother Ethan is tremendous as well. You couldn't ask for any better kids. But and I reached out to Tate, but I'm sure they celebrated pretty hard, and for all I know, Coach Ben McCollum has them set up to be ready to prepare for the Illini on Saturday. But I'll say this. And we're going to talk a little excess about Iowa, but I'm going to say this. When you look at Tate Sage's career, he had 19 points last night in a Sweet 16 matchup. I don't remember. I was asking some people just even after Sunday's game, when was the last time a Western Oklahoma kid played in the Sweet 16. I was thinking Ryan Miner for the OU Sooners in the early 90s, but I know that they were upset in a first round game against Manhattan. And I think that was Kelvin Sampson's first season, if I remember right. And they didn't make the tournament the year before. I'd have to look and see, but I don't think Kelvin made a Sweet 16 till he had been at OU at least 5 years or so. Maybe that Eduardo Nahara team. But just reflecting back on what I can out of my memory. But when you think about the past year for Tate Sage, he wins a state title in the final games at the Big House in Oklahoma City on the fairgrounds. wins a state title with his team. His twin brother, CJ Nixon, now at OU football, Walker Kennedy, Cash Jennings, and also Jackson Smith. They'd played in 2 finals before that, fell, and then get it done his senior year. And that week, it was the week that the 70-mile-an-hour winds were hitting the Oklahoma Central region, and then the lights were going out in their semifinal game, I believe it was, and it was just maybe it was the quarterfinal game. I can't remember right offhand, but it was just really amazing. The run they made his senior year, 1 loss, and that was to Owasso in the Tournament of Champions. But then he signs and commits to Drake University. He's going to go play for Ben McCollum at Drake, and everybody's super excited about that. Drake ended up going on a tournament run themselves. I think got into the round of 32 last season with Coach McCollum. And then all of a sudden, Ben McCollum gets tabbed up from Drake and takes the job at Iowa and heads for Iowa City. And I remember talking to Tate and Connor Carr giving us a comment there, almost like you don't need to transfer to a private high school to be productive and have a good college career. That is exactly kind of the direction I was leaning with this little rant. So thank you, Connor. And be sure and give us your comments as well. If you're streaming on Twitter X, YouTube, or Facebook, we want to hear from you. So like I said, just in the last year, and I was talking about this yesterday on a baseball broadcast for Weatherford, it was a year ago that we were sitting in the big house, final weekend in the big house, and final state tournament. And then, like I said, 70-mile-an-hour winds, lights kept going out, kept having stoppages. I remember trying to make it home that day after the games to make it back to Weatherford, and it was just crazy. And then they win on a CJ Nixon, last second 2-point bucket to beat Crossings Christian, get the state tournament win. And then I remember Tate, I'm pretty sure it was Tate, just threw the ball as the buzzer went off, threw the ball way up into the old scoreboard, and it hit some things up around the scoreboard, and the dust that came down was just pretty amazing. It was like just a halo cloud falling down on the floor, but just an amazing celebration. But like I said, Tate committed to Drake, then pulled his commitment after Coach McCollum decided he was going to take the Iowa job. And then, Coach ended up bringing Tate to Iowa City, and it has been quite the run. And then, for the freshman to be in there. And I said this about the game Sunday against Florida. Tate had 2 points in that one, but you can tell that Ben McCollum trusts him because of the fact that, it really is just a situation. I'm trying to find the stat line on Tate from last night. I know he had 19 points, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And what an amazing night for your freshman campaign in a Sweet 16. And then also Debbie Wright Sage, who is the mother of the twin Sage brothers, said Ethan had a stomach bug and was throwing up. Thankful for the delay. So Godspeed to Ethan. Hope he gets to feeling better. And, not to take anything away from him, he had an amazing season at Pittsburgh State this last season, really showed out what he can do. I just think with the Sage twins, you've got a 2-for-1. Tate's game is a little bit different, maybe a little more outside oriented, but Ethan also has great range. And like Connor mentioned when he said it's almost like you don't need to transfer to a private high school to be productive and have a good college career. That is exactly right. Now, the Sages played, travel ball in the summertime, and they really showed out on that one as well, and had some good teammates on those squads and stuff. But when I saw the Sage twins play on the high school level, and it goes for CJ Nixon as well, and former teammate. Okay. So Debbie was talking about the lights out game. Yeah, I forgot that he was sick that week, so my apologies. But yeah, when the lights kept delaying, he was fighting through a stomach bug. So And those kids I know for a fact fought through a lot of bugs through their high school career and didn't miss games. But let's see, where was I going? So just like I said, one thing I noticed was CJ Nixon and the Sage twins, and even Nate Rehrman, who played with him, graduated a year before those three, is they were so fundamentally sound, just fundamentally sound with their ball handling, their passing, and finishing around the bucket. I mean, there just wasn't, Coach Derek Bull, he had 3 or 4 guys that were just so solid to rebound to and granted they had you generally had a distinct height advantage, but still you get a lot of kids that have great leaping ability, good vertical jumps, and you can get outplayed if you're not careful. You never saw that with Weatherford Eagles. And the fundamental game, I just think of all the times that Ethan and Tate and CJ and Nate, had easy finishes around the bucket, and it was because they were so fundamentally sound. And that translates. And I will be dead in my grave if anybody ever tries to prove to me that it doesn't translate. It translates to the next level. And I'm just going to say, I'm old school, and Connor will bag on me because I talk about the mid-range jumper. But it's just a situation where your fundamentals and how good are you from 15 feet and in have so much to do with your success. And I think you saw that last night in the Arizona game with the, with the big guy for Arizona just really being able to navigate from the post, and those are high percentage buckets, and that's what you do. So it's just an amazing run, and congratulations to the Iowa Hawkeyes 77-71 win over Fred Hoiberg and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and kudos to Hoiberg as well. He got that program to a spot that they have not been in before. 2 wins in the tournament, and really given a lot of notoriety throughout the whole season. But and Ben McCollum, what can you say? 1 season at Drake, he had been at Northwest Missouri State before that, Maryville, Missouri. And Dan Narva checking in from Michigan says, I've watched those guys from here in Michigan since they were freshmen at Weatherford. Dan, you are probably the most distant fan for Weatherford sports, and you're much appreciated for that. Thank you for commenting on the Facebook live stream. So, as I mentioned, we've got the mother of the twins also chiming in earlier, Debbie Wright Sage. Thank you for your comments as well. But if you look up Maryville, Missouri on the map, it is kind of dead triangle center from Omaha, Des Moines, and Kansas City. So obviously Ben McCollum put in his work there at Northwest Missouri State. Now he's got the lowest seeded team in the history of the tournament into the Elite Eight, and just an amazing run. 38 points off the bench for the Hawkeyes, and 19 of those were Tate Sage. So over half of the bench points coming from Tate. And I'm just going to say this. I thought down the stretch, a few of their games that they dropped, it seemed like Tate wasn't quite getting the minutes. Now, that's just an uninformed observation. I haven't researched that, but I would check their line scores, and I would see that maybe Tate didn't have just an exceptional amount of minutes. That could be for various reasons. But like I said, I'll just say this. Coaches in basketball, when you can go eight, 9 deep on your squad, it makes such a difference. And I know a lot of coaches, sometimes they're not able to. Maybe the drop off is there. Maybe they're hurting in positions of experience, things like that. But when we see a team that can do it, can go at least 7 or 8 deep, it really changes things to me. And I think it's just one of those situations that you start giving a player like Tate Sage the minutes and getting him in there and getting him ready. I think it pays dividends. But that's kind of my outlook on that. But like I said, kudos to Fred Hoiberg, and just terrible, unfortunate. There at the end on the inbounds when they only had 4 players on the court. And that was coming out of a timeout. And, there's going to be a lot of questioning of Fred Hoiberg on how you let that happen. So the mayor, as they call him, will be wondering that for a while as well. But like I said, this South bracket is just now that Houston's out was well, the Sweet 16 version in the South bracket was 3 out of 4 Big Ten teams. So now it'll be another Big Ten elimination game on Saturday when Iowa faces the Illini. And speaking of Ben McCollum, I'm just going to say this. And Connor brought up the point about private high school players and things like that. I'm just going to say this. I think college sports has turned a page, and if athletic directors are wise and if they're observant, they will see that you need to go with somebody who can win, somebody who has a proven track record of winning. And I think we saw that in Indiana's football program with Kurt Cignetti, and I think we're seeing it with Ben McCollum at Iowa. And I'm just going to say this. Give me a coach that's had to ride a bus in the last 10 years. I mean, somebody whose transportation has not been the university's, chartered Mambo jet. Because you get in a situation where you realize, we've got to work. We've got to put in the effort. We've got to pay attention to detail. And Jeremy's not here to defend it, but I'll just say this. There's a certain athletic program in this area that I just don't see as being as being as gritty as they were 25 years ago when they won a national championship. I think there was a grit factor on that squad, and I think that's what gets you. So Connor Carr checking in says, unless it's Coach Cal always sure going to fly first class. He's earned that. So he'll have some rebuilding to do at Arkansas, but man, you talk about a guy who can attract talent. Casey Scamahorn out of Dubtown checking in says Tate Sage was clutch, buzzer beater at the half, and shot to tie at 68 were huge shots. What a performance. Love to see all the Oklahomies supporting him and the Hawks. Man, you talk about some Iowa uptick on the support on social media. Their social media people, if they're doing analytics, they are definitely noticing the surge and the spike in activity when they won that game last night. And I know my social media feed was really a buzz with all of the Iowa posts, and I jumped in there too. I'm gonna promote a kid that I used to call their games. Thank you, Casey Scamhorn, for checking in and your comment. So we're streaming live to you here on YouTube, Twitter, X, and Facebook at Law Dog Sports. We want to hear from you. Debbie Wright Sage says, thanks, Law Dog. We appreciate the hometown support and miss everyone in Oklahoma. We miss you too. And David, your wonderful husband. Debbie is a tremendous person, tremendous lady, and could probably be called the first mother of Weatherford basketball, her and Tierica Daniels. Tierica Nixon. So thank you so much, Debbie, for checking in. But, and that's the thing. Last Sunday, I went to the Weatherford basketball awards banquet, and really a great time spent with some great kids, some great families, all great kids and great families, and very privileged to get to fellowship with them at their banquet. And, when you look at Weatherford's record over the last 5 seasons, it's just been really amazing, the run, and just missed out on the state tournament this year in boys basketball, but made the state tournament on the girls side. And, that's going to be the standard now. And a lot of that was brought about by the Sage twins and CJ Nixon, but, and the players that played with them during that time as well. But, what it does, I think it inspires the younger players and the kids that look up to those players, and gives them a template of what they need to do to be prepared. And this season, seniors Jackson Smith, Hunter Nelson, and Dylan Epp, as well as Ricky Austin, did a great job leading the underclassmen as well. So appreciate them, but great time there at the Weatherford um, awards banquet. So, as I mentioned, it's going to be a Big Ten title tilt in the South Regional with the winner uh, going to the national semifinals, the Final Four, to face either Michigan State, UConn, St. John's, or Duke. So, Illinois, Iowa on Saturday. I think that game time is 6 o'clock, if I saw correctly. Let me double check that. Uh, let's see, 5:09 p.m. I think that's going to be Central Time. I'll double check, but so Saturday evening basketball with the Iowa Hawkeyes and Coach Ben McCollum. But like I said, I'll stick with that. I want to hire a coach who's had to ride a bus in the last decade. Because they are going to get it. They're going to realize what it takes to make that climb. And I just think a lot of times, nothing against former players who do their assistant coaching, and get a chance at it. And this isn't a knock at Hubert Davis. I think he deserved more time at North Carolina. But, we see it in football, former players that get on with a big program, you're riding that lifestyle that you had in college. And so anyways, it's just I think we're going to see more athletic directors start looking at some of these, winning programs at the D2 level. And typically in football, if you win, at a good level at the group of 5 level, you will get a look. And I think, Tulsa is probably going to be looking at their coach getting some offers, Eric Kunkel. But, and right now it's weird because North Carolina has a coaching vacancy. Kansas could end up having a coaching vacancy. I mean, there's a lot of overturn in college basketball. And then last night I saw a stat, and I'm pretty sure the year was 1954. But since 1954, this was the first Sweet 16 without the Kansas Jayhawks, University of Kentucky Wildcats, UCLA Bruins, or North Carolina Tar Heels participating in the Sweet 16. First time since, I believe, 54 is what I saw on that. So just an amazing run by all of those programs, which they're all considered blue bloods. But social media is pretty funny, and the fact that they threw out that, those squads are struggling behind now because it's hard for those squads since everybody's able to do what they were doing for years. So, but I think so much of the NIL stuff as well, we will still see players that want to go wear Carolina blue, that want to go play at, Rupp Arena, things like that. I don't see the blue bloods falling off. If they're not willing to invest the money, they could struggle. And I don't think, looking at those squads this season, North Carolina, Caleb, what was the kid's name? He was a heck of a guard, got hurt. And then, UCLA has to try to overcome Mick Cronin. And then, they lost to a good UConn squad, 73-57. But Kentucky, Kansas probably underperforming, but that's we know that those programs can bounce back just sometimes based on name alone. And Kansas loses on a buzzer beater by an amazing, kind of an amazing St. John squad this season. So I'm not gonna bang on Bill. They had a weird season, but they had some big wins. They didn't lose it at Fog Allen. And so they made the round of 32, lost to a really good St. John's team, and a St. John's team that will take on Duke tonight and see if they can get into the Elite Eight. But it was funny that Coach Rick Pitino, also made the mention that, it's a different playing field now for the Blue Bloods. And they've got teams like St. John's, which, man, St. John's back in the old days of Lou Carnesecca, they had, a lot of great talent there in New York that they held on to, and some great teams at St. John's. Just they're not quite, and Jeremy and I go back and forth about this, who are the Blue Bloods? And there are some people that will argue that Connecticut is not a blue blood. Well, a lot of titles since 1999 for the Huskies. Connor Carr checking in. Caleb Wilson. Yes, thank you. I almost said Caleb Williams, but that's a whole different topic. I think this year has also proved that you have to recruit freshmen to be successful. Kentucky spent $22 million, and it's all transfers. Pitino doesn't have a freshman signed for next year. There's a lot of people talking about Kentucky and kind of blaming Pope for all of their problems. But yeah, it's a balancing act, and that's what's so fun about college basketball right now. And you've got, and we talked about Iowa. Kudos to Bennett Sturts, man. That guy, I mean, he has just come onto the scene and proven that, hey, if you're a player, you're a player. And I love it. I love seeing it. But it is, I do think it's a balance. And I think you'll always have those kids that are truly high-end recruits that can get out there and do a lot for a program. I mean, we're seeing that with Darius Acuff Jr. And, the things he's done for the Hogs. And like I said, he's in a losing effort last night, but has 28 points. And like I said, some of the moves I saw him make, I was truly impressed with. So, but yeah, it's just one of those situations where you're going to want balance. And man, I hate to do this, and it may prove out to be right. It may prove out to be wrong, but right now I got to say, we're probably seeing in college football. Now, nobody can take anything away from Kurt Signetti. He's navigated whatever it is that he's brought into the Indiana program perfectly. Transfer portal, whatever they've had as far as homegrown talent, so to speak. But also, I got to give credit to Steve Sarkisian at Texas. It just seems like they really can kind of come in and do the things that they need, fill in the gaps that they need to. Now, he's got to get out there and prove it this year. But then also they've got a lot of high-end talent through, high school recruiting. So it is a balance, and you're always going to have coaches scouting out high school players. And now you have to, I realize you have to give them a stipend as well, but that is what it is. But that's the great thing about college sports is, right now we're looking at kids who, are getting out there and performing, getting out there and earning that paycheck, you could say. And it's unlike it ever has been before, but maybe it always has been like this. And now we're just seeing it more transparently. Texas and Purdue last night, man, Matt Painter, he's had a heck of a run, and just, he's been at Purdue forever. Just an amazing job he's done over that time. And now he's got to try to get out there and prove it, what they truly are. I mean, they were a preseason number one coming into this year by a lot of accounts. You had Houston, Florida, Michigan caught a lot of pub, but Purdue's been right up there. They come into the tournament as a 2 seed. Now they're going to have to play Arizona, and Arizona is just, I don't know that they'll shoot 60% again. And that's the thing about when you have a game like that against Arkansas is you score 109 points and you shoot 62% from three and you shoot 64% from the field. And it's that old adage I used to say, like in soccer, you have like a 4 or 5 goal output. He's like, oh, did we use up all of our goals last night? When you got to play the next one. So it's just, it can be tough, but Purdue with the win over Texas last night, 79-77 on a tip-in play. And let me try to get the name of the kid again. His last name was Wren, and I had it here. Let's see here. Really just kind of stalling so I can catch my breath and let my voice rest a little bit. Where are my NCAA scores? There we go. Texas Purdue 79-77. Purdue advances to the Elite Eight, and it was Kaufman Wren. Yeah, that's who it was. Was his first name Tyler? Trey Kaufman Wren with the tip in. And it's just if you're a Texas fan, you really are pretty perturbed by by the pushing the back on the offensive rebound and the put in. I noticed it. I won't go into the semantics of how it made me feel. And Connor Carr with a comment here, and I think it speaks a lot. I hate Texas, but after the whole Chris Beard thing, I'm glad they don't suck completely. I was glad they didn't suck completely with Rodney Terry. Now, maybe he was too closely associated with Chris Beard, but I thought I would have liked to have seen him get a little more of a shot. But they brought in Sean Miller, who had success at Arizona, had success at Xavier also. But also, when you look at Arizona, they're going to their first Elite Eight since 2015. Now, I don't remember if he was there then or not, but it's definitely a situation where, to me, he's going to have a lot at his disposal in Austin, and kudos to him for snagging that job. Yeah, he was there 2009 to 2021. So yeah, he just left Arizona back in 2021 and a couple of stints at Xavier. So he was responsible for their last trip to the Elite Eight in Tucson. But he's no one I've ever liked. I don't care for him. But like I said, on a night where he's got a team playing and Brad Underwood's got a team playing, somehow I end up defaulting to Sean Miller, who's normally right in the crosshairs of all my vitriol, so to speak. But just, an amazing run in the playoffs by the Longhorns. You have to give credit where credit's due. Now, they beat a Will Wade team in the play-in game that probably who knows how much real preparation he was giving in to his squad with his imminent exit to Baton Rouge. But then also, to get the win over Gonzaga and BYU, which I think a lot of people figured they could probably take down BYU because of some of the injuries and then the maybe over-reliance on Debansa. But then that Gonzaga game, they win that one 74-68. That was a good one. I thought Pope played really well in the postseason. Tremont Mark had a big game last night. So the Longhorns got nothing to hang their head about. And I'm sure Sean Miller making it to the Sweet 16 in his first season in Austin will have a lot more to come up with, having a full run here going into the off season, getting ready for next year as they fall in the Sweet 16 to the Purdue Boilermakers. And Purdue, like I said, Saturday will have a heck of a matchup against the Arizona Wildcats, who right now look like they could be the class of the tournament. But it's always those teams. And I tell you something, without a few of the other high seeds in there, you've got a 2-seed UConn. If Tom Izzo can't get it done tonight against the Huskies, I would probably I know St. John's, I think, has beat them before, but man, the Huskies and Dan Hurley, you get them into the Elite Eight. It's like a horror movie villain. You're going to have to see the body destroyed in molten lava before you can believe that it's true. Connor complimenting me on my vitriol usage. Let's leave the vocabulary lesson for the Chuck and Truck podcast. So thanks, Connor. Your comments are very appreciated. So just a few more minutes here as, like I said, tonight's going to be an interesting night. You've got Duke taking on St. John's, Rick Pitino versus Kyle Shire. Then Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley square off. That's both of those in the East region. And then another big one, Michigan and Bama. And, man, the beatdown that Bama put on Texas Tech and the way they shot the ball, 90-65. And I know Tech was depleted and without Toppin, but just really, really a big game by the Crimson Tide. Then you've got Rick Barnes and Tennessee going up against the Iowa State uh, Cyclones, and that one will be a big one. And what a run it would be if Iowa ends up with two teams in the Elite Eight. Just one Iowa team on Saturday, the other one on Sunday, trying to get to the Final Four. So that would be pretty amazing. And also the Big 12. The Houston lost last night, and if Iowa State falls to Tennessee tonight, that would leave just one team from the Big 12 in the tournament. And I think so many people really felt like, it would be a little more Big 12 heavy. I mean, they've been touted as, and I've even said it as, maybe the best conference in the country. I think the Big Ten's kind of proven me wrong for sure, and SEC with some good squads as well. So if Tennessee pulls that one off, Bama wins tonight, the SEC kind of makes their claim at some notoriety as well. But Houston falling to Illinois last night probably put a little bit of a dent in the Big 12 run. But that's the thing about tournament basketball is you just don't know. And so anyways, so Sweet 16 goes on tonight. Then the Elite Eight will start Saturday and Sunday, and we will be on next week to kind of recap that and preview the Final Four. Hopefully Jeremy Schroeder will join me back. Opening day, Rangers, as I mentioned, lose yesterday. Nathan Eovaldi takes the loss. Jacob deGrom will get the start tomorrow as they are back in Philly, they're in Philly to open the season. And then the Astros lost 3-0 to the Angels. Cardinals get a 9-7 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. And then the Dodgers win 8-2 over the Diamondbacks. We'll talk a lot more baseball. I reached out to Newt Huntley with the Sooner State Baseball Report and was going to try to get him on today, as would love to try to get a guest on when we don't have Jeremy here. He's busy, and I get that. It's tournament weekend for high school baseball, and D2 state baseball is in action. And then also you've got OU and OSU playing conference games. And man, OU gets down 7-0 with LJ Mercurius starting against the Texas Longhorns yesterday. They end up getting run ruled 14-0. And I really thought that we could probably anticipate a little bit more than that. But I mean, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Texas looks like this spring could be a big run for their diamond-based squads, with both softball and baseball looking very, very good. And hopefully OU can get the bounce back win today. And then also spring practice got going this week. I know there's still a lot of draft talk going on. I know, Connor, do you know why they were playing on Thursday? I don't right offhand. I'm going to guess it was probably some sort of scheduling issue, some sort of, as Jeremy would say, let me effort that, because I don't know if it's a situation where they are trying to get the games in before something, or what it might be. I obviously didn't check into that, but you come out of the series win on the road at LSU, and then it really was odd when I saw the social media post that they were run ruled with Mercurius on the mound. So just really kind of different there. But they will wrap up on Saturday at Austin. They'll play today at 7 p.m. and then tomorrow's game will be at 4. And then they'll jump back in on Tuesday when they'll travel to Tulsa to play Oral Roberts before opening a series at home versus Alabama on the 2nd. So OU baseball in full effect, 19-6 on their season, 4-3 in conference play. So, and whether you're run ruled or whether it's a walk off, I mean, it's a loss is a loss, and I'm not going to downplay it. I'm not going to try to buttercoat it, but you bounce back and you try to try to jump back out on and try to do something. Texas ranked number 2 in the country, and we're just kind of all over Auburn after they gave up a weird loss, I think last Friday. So just kind of different, but the win goes to Riojas for the Longhorns today. Let's see who's on the mound for each squad. Not seeing starters listed, so we will see. But so, anyways, just college baseball getting warmed up as basketball begins to wrap up. There'll be more emphasis and things on that. So, anyways, but no, Connor, I do not know why they moved that game to Thursday. But real quick before we get out of here, as I mentioned, spring football got started. John Mateer at OU. Drew Mestamaker at OSU. There's going to be a lot of attention on both of those quarterbacks going forward. Eric Morris with so many North Texas transfers. We'll see if you change some group of 5 players out from green to orange, will it make a big difference in the Big 12? And a lot of people, I think, this year think it could. I think a lot of people think that the coaching change and the transfers and bringing in players who are probably already a bit established will make a difference. And I think even Bill Connolly with ESPN and the SP Plus formula kind of felt like the Pokes were a team that we could see make a bit of a different run. So it'll be interesting to see. I know John Mateer is going to be looking to stay healthy and probably try to fine tune some mechanics. He'll have Isaiah Satania as a weapon and hopefully a tight end as well as some of their other receivers that they brought in. I saw a picture after OU lost an assistant coach or a defensive analyst to the University of Alabama. I try to look up I forget his name, but Coach Miguel Chavis, who coaches defensive ends and edges, put out a tweet, and I'm going to see if I can find that. But one former Weatherford Eagle was on there in the picture that Coach Chavis shared. And, you're talking about a guy who's going to be running out a lot of draft talent from his unit this season with R. Mason Thomas and a few others. Let's see. There it is. So a picture with Coach Miguel Chavis and then also Trent Simpson, who is the coach who took a job with Alabama, took a group unit picture and one CJ Nixon there on the picture. And actually, I think I retweeted that at Law Dog Sports, but CJ Nixon with the number 88. And I've seen the kid from time he was a freshman till now. And he is a big pile of wood. I mean, he's a large kid nowadays, and they have got him on the weight program, and he's just looking really massive, 6'4", and I think listed at 270 on the spring schedule roster. So I'm going to be hoping for big things for CJ Nixon coming forward in what will be his redshirt freshman year this coming season. So all the hype I gave for Tate Sage in basketball, hopefully I'll be doing the same thing for football with CJ Nixon, and those Weatherford Eagles will be soaring high once more. So yeah, also the Owen Heineke situation. I know he filed for an injunction to allow him to come back to OU. We'll kind of keep tabs on that. I think there's probably still some deliberation. I haven't seen anything resolute on that, but for his sake, really hoping that he does get another year to come back to OU, because it's just one of those things where three rugby games, and that's going to cost you a year of college football. It's just pretty stunning to me. Debbie Sage checking in and once again said, "Let's go Hawks. Everyone get yourself to Houston. We were pretty outnumbered yesterday." I tell you, the Nebraska faithful travel. And I said this on the broadcast last week. And then also I ran into a friend of mine at the basketball awards banquet, Jacob Silman, out of Weatherford, who's a huge Texas A&M fan, went down there to watch the Aggies at the Oklahoma City Regional, and those Nebraska fans, they travel and they get rowdy and they love to party. I know that from past experience in the 90s, but it did look like they were outnumbered. But I tell you, it's a we'll see how the Illini travel. They'll probably travel well, but Debbie with a wonderful logo on her Facebook page with the state of Oklahoma and an outline of the Iowa Hawkeye logo. So awesome profile pic there for Debbie Sage. And like I said, Nebraska fans travel well and they party a lot. And then hopefully Iowa will have a bunch of folks down at the, I guess it's the Toyota Center, I think, where they're playing that. But and one thing I forgot to mention, we're going to get out of here real quick. One thing I forgot to mention is Houston loses that game against Illinois yesterday right in their backyard. Kelvin Sampson, tremendous coach, wonderful, amazing guy. Loved having him. I love thinking back of the years he's with OU. But I heard one of the announcers say that, when they asked him about playing in your backyard, he mentioned how we went on the road last year against Tennessee and won in their backyard. And I just kind of have to wonder, does Kelvin Sampson does he kind of just speak bad luck into fruition? I may think that fleetingly, but I don't know if I'm going public with that. I don't know if it matters, but you got to go out and get your guys to play, and maybe being too close to home took a little bit of that edge off. So I don't know. Toyota Center, home of the Houston Rockets. Thanks, Debbie Sage. And we'll be looking for you and David on the camera. And I know your daughter Shelby was there as well. And just a lot of fun for the Sage family down there supporting Tate Sage. And then also Ethan Sage. Dan Narva says, shout out to Ethan too, playing lots with Gorillas. Looks like he had a good year. Yes, he did. And I was real proud of the way that Ethan Sage played at Pittsburgh State for the Gorillas. And, we'll see what his future holds for him. I think he's equally as talented and equally as much of a hardworking young man as his brother. And, what a tandem they would make. You talk about the stuff of lore. And so Debbie says all 5 of them are there. So, yeah, Sage crew, Sage clan travels en masse. Real quick, as I mentioned, just have to wonder sometimes that Kelvin Sampson kind of jinx his own self. Let's see. College football, I noticed earlier this week that the rules committee, I guess, changed. First time targeting in a game will result in an ejection, but not a suspension for the next half of the next game. But if you're called for targeting a second time, it will cost you a half in the next game. And then third time, you will be suspended a full game into the next one on that one. So, and then Debbie Sage letting us know that Ethan Sage has entered the portal, the transfer portal. So we will be looking forward to seeing how that fares for Ethan. And just, an amazing player is he as well. So anyways, that I'm sure the Sages would love to kind of condense their travel package. So they've made some trips for Pittsburgh State and the Hawkeyes this season. So but great times for them. Real quick, last thing we'll get out of here is I mentioned the targeting. Also the North Carolina coaching vacancy. I don't think Hubert Davis, I think, probably could have used another season. His last several seasons right on par with Tom Izzo. I know he doesn't have the stock credo that Izzo has, but you're talking about results. Bad injury this season after they were looking very promising. It's hard to say. Real quick. Oh, congratulations. We mentioned Kurt Signetti, coaches with grit. He's going to be driving the pace car for the Indy 500 when that comes around on Memorial Day. So kudos to him. Real quick, I mentioned this at the beginning of the broadcast. Caleb Williams seeking to trademark the phrase Iceman because he threw a couple of touchdowns in a cold weather game last year. And I just think that is typical and I know I could irritate some people with this, typical of people of his generation. And, respect for what came before you, and then also earning what you have. And I didn't hear anybody referring to him as the Iceman. Now, I don't listen to Chicago sports radio. I don't listen to Bears analysts. And, what I hear about the Bears, I hear on the mothership or Fox, something like that. Iceman, that's a stretch. And then also, I was informed on social media that Chicago Bear great Red Grange was also referred to as the Iceman. I've heard of Red Grange my whole life. I've never heard the phrase Iceman. When it comes to Iceman, there's three figures I think about: the comic book character, the mafia hitman, and the amazing guard for the San Antonio Spurs, George Gervin. And you know who comes to mind first when I hear the phrase Iceman? Well, now it's Cooper Bryant, the junior guard and receiver defensive back for the Weatherford Eagles. That's who comes to mind first for me. But before Cooper Bryant was nicknamed the Iceman, which is a title I bestowed on him, not something he went out promoting. But before that, when I heard the phrase Iceman, it was George Gervin. That's been the way my whole life. And I don't think Caleb Williams and his painted fingernails and his crying on mama's shoulder after a loss is quite deserving or should be allowed to develop his own nickname and bestow it upon himself. I don't know. But like I said, I don't listen to Chicago sports talk. I don't pay attention to what their supporters and their talking heads. But I was unaware of the phrase, of any reference to him of being the Iceman up until I read where he was looking to trademark it. So that's, appreciate the job he did coming back against the University of Texas in 2021. But beyond that, give two rats. But anyway, that's my take on all things with regards to this current generation and trying to take respect from people who did it back before. So just not a big fan of trying to trademark a nickname. And thank you, Debbie Sage. Thanks for all you continue to do. You are the best. Thank you, Debbie. You guys are amazing as well, and appreciate all of your comments on here. And good luck to Tate Sage and the Iowa Hawkeyes coming up on Saturday when they take on the wretched Brad Underwood and the Fighting Illini. And I don't have heartburn against Illinois, I promise. Just Brad Underwood. That's the only one. So I better get out of here. I've been on here over an hour, and that's a lot of talking when you don't have your co-host with you. So sorry for those of you who had to listen to me rant the whole time. We want to thank our sponsor, A-Plus Roofing and Construction. Rain or shine, they'll be there, locally owned and operated by Damon Schultz. Call them at 580-772-7587. I'm getting ready to move back to the Metro, and I promise you, when I have things that I need done, roofing or construction-wise, he's the guy I'm going to be calling. Good friend of mine, runs a great business, very honorable man. We appreciate Damon Schultz. And speaking of, it's kind of like Voldemort. You say his name several times, and he pops up. Damon Schultz there on the job. Fantastic job. Thank you, and you do a fantastic job, and we want people to call you, whether it's in Western Oklahoma or in the metropolitan area. Damon Schultz at A-Plus Roofing, 580-772-7587. I want to appreciate everybody who chimed in on the comment line. We appreciate all of you for taking the time and interacting with us, with me here on the broadcast. Like I mentioned, without Jeremy here, I probably have a real tendency to rant and ramble, and Dan Narva giving me a little bit of compliment for flying solo. So thank you, Dan Narva, up in Michigan. I'm Chuck Ramsey, the Law Dog. We'll be back next Friday with another Weekend Big Show. Jeremy Schroeder will hopefully be back with me, and he will be ruling the airways up until that time. And I will be calling baseball today at Eagle Field, 2 games as part of the I-40 Baseball Classic today on Right Media. So be sure to check that out. Also games at Clinton that will be on Right Media as well. And I think Luke Clement and myself will be looking at doing a Western Oklahoma sports night in the upcoming week to kind of wrap up some of the baseball going on. And then also we'll see if we have a Weatherford kid going to the Final Four. That's what I'm going to be hoping for. on Saturday. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure and give us a like and a subscribe on our YouTube page at Law Dog Sports. Also, we'll share this video to our Twitter X, the link to the YouTube video on our Twitter X page and Facebook page at Law Dog Sports. Be safe out there. Have a great weekend. Don't text and drive, but sure don't drink and drive, and we'll talk to you real soon.